Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today I'm going to talk about the fourth and final episode of the new Netflix documentary series, four-part series called Encounters from Steven Spielberg's Amblin Television. I really enjoyed this entire series, and this latest episode was pretty good, not as good as the first three. This latest episode was called Lights Over Fukushima, and it focused on UFOs that were seen hovering over an area of Japan where there was a earthquake followed by a tsunami and also a nuclear reactor meltdown at the nuclear plant in Fukushima in March of 2011. And it was very interesting. However, out of all the episodes, I would say I enjoyed this one the least. Overall, I think the series is great. I highly recommend it. The first episode, called Messengers, I gave that episode a rating of 4 stars out of 4. The second episode, called Believers, I gave that episode. The first one focused on the Stephenville, Texas UFO sightings of 2008. The second episode, Believers, focused on the aerial school incident in 1994. I gave that episode 3.5 star rating. The Broadhaven Triangle, which focused on the 1977 UFO, Men in Black, and alien encounters of many residents of a Welsh village. I gave that episode 4 stars. I think that's probably the best episode out of them all. I probably like that one the most. This episode, unfortunately, I have to give it 2.5 stars. It gets knocked down a bit because I think this thing focused much more on spirituality and religion. There was somebody on there that they presented, a woman who claims to be an alien. I thought that was absolutely absurd. Let me see. I'll pull her name up here. There was just some things about it that I just couldn't agree with. I didn't understand why they took this route for this episode. It didn't make any sense to me. So because of that, I have to knock some points off there. Miko Ninagawa, a drama teacher who was on there. In one part, she was speaking like in tongues. It was almost like a form of like if you ever heard a religious nut speaking in tongues, this was the same thing, except she was claiming she was speaking to aliens and that she claimed she was an alien. I didn't understand why this was part of this episode. I really had no connection whatsoever with what was the main topic, what the main topic seemed to be. So I had to knock off some points for that one. I didn't think that was necessary at all. I think there had to be other people that they could have talked to instead. By putting someone like that in here in this episode, it makes it look crazy as far as I'm concerned. I think that, to me, that just didn't make any sense whatsoever. But there were some bright spots about it. There was this monk I thought was very interesting. Tomo Roni Izumi. He was a chief monk at this temple near where this nuclear meltdown occurred. He saw, before it happened, he saw a giant UFO hovering right above him. And he talked about how, he thinks the stuff that he was talking about seemed normal to me. Like, this is like normal discussion of UFOs. But some of the people on there, I didn't understand why they took that route for this one. They had another person on there, Dr. Diana Posolka. She's a professor and author. She was talking about how people who believe in UFOs is almost very religious-like, and they're trying to make a connection between people who see UFOs and are curious about UFOs with religion. And I just didn't understand the way they handled it this time. I didn't understand. There was another guy on there, a journalist and author named Roland Tozomini Keltz. He was talking about Japanese pop culture and anime and manga, and I'm trying to figure out, why are we listening to this stuff when there's other things that should be getting discussed on this in this documentary? I think there was a lot to talk about, and they did. The reason the saving aspects of this was a discussion of how not only in Fukushima, when there was they actually showed video of weird objects hovering over this nuclear power plant after it had the meltdown, and some people believe that it might have been this monk that was talking, this Tomorani Izumi. He believed that perhaps it was and others thinks that it might have been trying to avert more disaster, try to knock down the amount of radiation levels, knock down the radiation levels. And they also discussed during this episode was the Chernobyl nuclear reactor meltdown in 1986 in Russia, where there was in the USSR, where there were UFOs seen after that incident, and radiation levels dropped dramatically after the UFO showed up for a few minutes. So that was suggested during this episode that the extraterrestrials are concerned about the way we're dabbling it with dangerous technology like nuclear power plants, and potentially dangerous technology like nuclear power plants and nuclear missiles. And it was also discussed. They talked about the Malmstrom incident, 1967 in Montana, where a UFO showed up and shut down 10 nuclear missiles. They showed some archival footage of Robert Salas talking about that. But I thought that the point was well made by the one doctor that was featured on here, Dr. Jensine Anderson. She's a scholar and author. She was talking about that she believes that the extraterrestrials could be here to prevent us from destroying each other, destroying ourselves, basically, via nuclear technology, and that could be one of the things that is going on here. She agreed that what could be happening here is that the extraterrestrial presence, one of the reasons that they don't want to see us go extinct. They don't want to see the human race go extinct because of this. They realize that we're a creative bunch, and we could end up that creativity could lead to complete absolute disaster, and maybe they're here to make sure that doesn't happen, or to try to prevent it. And actually, all of that makes a lot of sense when you really think about it, because, I mean, why would they go? When you think about the Malmstrom incident in 1967, I mean, why would they do that? If they're sending a message, I think the message is clear that, hey, that we don't like this for whatever reason. That could be the case. I mean, we don't know everything, all the reasons why they're here, but obviously these beings are very concerned with our technology, particularly nuclear missiles and our nuclear reactors, nuclear power plants. It seems like there's, according to Anderson, there was like over a 50-year period, there were like 39 different cases with UFOs hovering over, showing up over nuclear power plants, many different incidents. And the case in, like the cases in Chernobyl and also in Fukushima. I mean, the idea that maybe what's the reason that they show up is because they're doing some remediation, perhaps, to prevent to lessen the levels of radiation. That could be true. It seemed like that might have been certainly the case in Chernobyl, when the levels dropped dramatically after a UFO showed up. So it does that was the interesting part of the show. But again, there was too much other stuff in there. I think it went too far with the spirituality. I thought that was very unnecessary to have this Dr. Diana Pasulka talking about how UFOs are it's almost like a religion. No, it's not like a religion. It's not like a religion. It's just a bunch of people on this planet who are concerned. Everyone, there might be some people out there, some people who are interested in the UFO/extraterrestrial reality that do take on turn it into some kind of a personal religion themselves. But I would say the vast majority of people are just curious people who want answers. I think it's more of a scientific kind of thing rather than a religious thing. And I guess compared with the other episodes, there was just too much nonsense in this one. So that's why I have to knock it down 2.5 stars. But I say overall, I really enjoyed this series. But I think that the inclusion of people like this woman who claims she's an alien and then is basically speaking in some strange language that she calls light language, and she's what? Come on. I mean, that seems absurd on its face. So that's the part I didn't like. So overall, it's just like any other TV series out there that you might like. I mean, there's always a stinker among the bunch, right? And in this case, in the case of Encounters, this is the stinker of the bunch. Not completely. It's not a complete loss. Like I said, I think there was a lot of stuff in there. Like I never saw some of the video image that was shown in this. I'm sure it's probably been out there, but I just don't remember ever seeing it before. Of these UFOs hovering over the Fukushima nuclear power plant after the meltdown, after it exploded, right? And it was, and I never saw objects like that before. I never saw something like that before. And did they avert disaster, worse disaster potentially? We really don't know. But I guess maybe someday we'll know what they're doing with this. But it seems like that's what's happening, that they do have a concern, some of these beings, with are dabbling with nuclear technology. I mean, when you think about the Ariel school incident, there was those handful of kids that had that were communicating, receiving telepathic messages from this alien being, and that alien being was expressing a concern with technology, and not to get too technologed, right? Basically, and showing them images of disaster. Was that a lesson they were trying to convey at that time, at that moment, about this? Is that what this is all about? We just don't know. I mean, who knows? There's so many tentacles to the entire UFO phenomena. I'm not sure if we're ever going to get to the full truth. Not in a single lifetime, or who knows? I just can't imagine we're ever going to figure all of this out, because we don't even know how many are coming here. What are they all? What are the intentions of them? Because some might have different intentions than others. We just don't know any. We just don't have enough information. We just don't know. And again, that's why I always say it's a shame for the cover-up, because if it wasn't for the cover-up, there'd be more people within the scientific community studying this and trying to get answers. And unfortunately, right now, that is not happening. So, yeah. Overall, I have to give this episode I'm not really failing it. 2.5 stars is over the halfway point, but I would have to say that for the most part, I didn't think it was as good as the first 3. I could say that much. And I'm sure that a lot of my people out there, there's probably going to be a lot of people in the UFO community that agree with that assessment, I would say. But it is interesting, the idea that they are concerned with our nuclear technology, and that perhaps someday we'll know more why they are concerned. If they're basically, it was the way it was presented in this episode. It's like if you let it, you just don't let a kid standing at a stove with a hot burner, because some kind of disaster might happen. If you're standing there watching your kid cook something on the stove, you're going to be paying attention, and if something goes wrong, you're there to take care of it. That could be the way what's going on here. That's how maybe that's what these extraterrestrials are doing. Hey, look at this! Look at this! They're playing around with nuclear. Their power plant is going to blow up here, so we better intervene and try to make this not as bad as it potentially could be. Maybe that's what's going on here. But I guess the question I have too is, why are they concerned with this planet? I mean, why are they concerned about us? Maybe it's not that it could be that they're concerned about us and they're watching over us, or there could be other reasons. I mean, it could be that they're concerned about this planet. And they want to make it their planet, or they are making it their planet. That's some other way to look at this. And at some point, maybe we'll be not needed here. At some point, maybe they're just making sure that we don't do anything in the interim. Maybe they're coming here in greater numbers at some point, and when that time comes, then maybe they'll boot us out of here somehow, right, and take over. But before that happens, they're making sure that we don't make it uninhabitable. We just don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna talk about some of the. I'm gonna do an update on the polls that I've been having recently on Spotify. For the most recent episode, because I've done the other ones before. I'm not gonna. There's really not much change on those. But for the most recent episode, UFOs, ET sightings, and MIB encounters in 1977 Wales, focus of episode 3 of Spielberg's Encounters doc-series. I asked this question: what is to blame for the weird encounters numerous Broadhaven residents experienced in 1977? And I had 7 different possible choices for you. Well, nobody, so at least so far. So far, 33 people have voted. This was from yesterday. Nobody so far has voted for mass hallucinations. One person, or 3%, voted for hoax conspiracy. So one person is out there trying to state that all these people that had these encounters in 1977 in Broadhaven, the 16 school kids, all these people at the farm, all these people at a hotel, amongst all these other, basically 450 witnesses, it was all a conspiracy to perpetuate a hoax. So I don't accept that. But I threw that in there. I knew somebody would vote for that. Cold War nerves. One person voted for that, or 3%. Of course, in that episode, it was intimated that perhaps the Cold War has something to do with this. Researcher David Clark had said something like that. It was during the height of the Cold War in 1977 when all these things were going on, and maybe the Cold War has something to do with people seeing UFOs. I don't know how that has anything to do with anything, but that's... Some people believe that. 1% or 3% are saying Cold War nerves. It's almost like, George Romero in 1968, that's when he released Night of the Living Dead. After it comes out, after people study it over the years, these professors, journalists, authors, they all say, well, yeah, it was basically a commentary on the Vietnam War at the time. Well, no. According to George Romero, he was trying to make a monster movie to scare the hell out of people. That's what it was. It wasn't no commentary on the Vietnam War. But some people out there who believe that they're smarter than the rest of us, and smarter than even the guy who made the movie himself, who says he made it to scare people, right? Said no, I was trying to make a movie to scare people. That's what I was trying to do. It wasn't no commentary on the Vietnam War. But yet a lot of people out there will tell you, yeah, it was about the Vietnam War. Okay, 1% or 3% say government psyops. I think it might have been a psyop of some sort. It could have been an extraterrestrial psyop, but I was talking to somebody else yesterday about this. And they suggested that maybe it's not a psyop. Maybe what was going on there, maybe it's a glitch. Maybe sometimes this extraterrestrial technology is just glitching, and we start and think weird. And then the people that are maybe we're not supposed to see these things, and maybe sometimes there are glitches in the matrix somehow, and then maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that's what it was, a glitch of some sort, and that's why all these people were having these strange encounters back in 1977. I don't know if I subscribe to that. I don't know, but that's just another theory. But government psyops, I don't think so. Alien psyops, perhaps. But yeah, that could have been that. I don't know. I guess we're probably never going to know. Okay, what else do we got here? Oh, yes. 2 people voted for fairies, or 6.1%. In that episode about the Broadhaven Triangle, researcher David Clark pointed out how the old folklore with regards to fairies, the old Celtic stories about fairies, and had fairies basically in the old style stories basically were these very similar to the extraterrestrials and the encounters that people were having in 1977. So there are 2 people who say that. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that I don't think that these things are fairies. I think that maybe back in days of old, people looked at this. They didn't have any other explanation. They never even thought of beings from other worlds. They just thought it was some sort of spiritual creatures or like fairies. And that's what I think. And I think now we're realizing what they really are. That's what I think it could be. Let's see what else we have here. We have 3 people, or 9.1%, say pop culture. Yes, pop culture. I don't agree with that one either. I mean, because here's the problem. Okay, now, this was something that David Clark was talking about in that episode, that, a lot of the stuff in the pop culture in 1977, dealt with science fiction. There's old science fiction movies from the 50s on TV. There are movies like Star Wars and Close Encounters getting released into the theater that year. And it was just something that people recognized easily. Flying saucers, it was just one of those things at that time. But the whole problem I have with that whole argument is the fact that that pop culture developed because of the sightings that preceded it. The real sightings, starting back in 1947, 48, 49, 50. It really wasn't until 1950, 51, when movies like The Thing from Another World and The Day the Earth Stood Still were released, right? So, and that's that pop culture was caused by events that were occurring in the news, sightings by regular people in the late 40s into the early 50s, and then you have that, and then throughout the 50s you had a whole bunch of movies, Forbidden Planet, Earth versus the Flying Saucers and whatnot, War of the Worlds, This Island Earth. There was a whole bunch of movies, and then by the 1970s all those movies were playing on regular TV, so a lot of kids would see them. Yeah, that's true. Flying saucers and aliens were part of the pop culture, but the reason they became part of the pop culture because people were having sightings beforehand. So that I don't subscribe to that one there at all. I just don't believe that one. And then finally, 25 people, or 75.8%, say extraterrestrials were responsible. Yes, I agree. I think it was extraterrestrials. I think it was, there's no question in my mind, whatever these people were seeing out there, they couldn't have been human, right? 7-8 foot tall creatures, UFOs, flying saucers, multiple witnesses, men in black the men in black that some of the people were experiencing there in Broadhaven in 1977, they looked like wax. They looked like they're made of wax with no wrinkles, identical. Two guys standing next to each other looked like identical twins, and they didn't have any wrinkles on their face. Something weird was going on there. I don't know what. Maybe it was some sort of a glitch and it wasn't supposed to happen, or maybe it was some sort of an extraterrestrial psyop. Who the hell knows? Some people, one of the witness reports was that there was this rock, they call it the stacked rocks. It's this little island off the coast of this Broadhaven village, and some people saw this flying saucer go inside of this thing somehow. Like a door opened up on these stacked rocks, and the flying saucer flew inside. We don't have stuff like this. The human race doesn't have things like that, especially in 1977, right? We just don't have it. So it has to be extraterrestrials / non-human intelligence. That's what's had to be. That's what I believe it had to be. That's just my opinion. Doesn't make me right. So overall, I'm going to give this new Steven Spielberg documentary series the overall rating. I'm going to give it a after seeing all 4 episodes, I have to give it a. I'm going to probably go 3.5 stars, my overall rating, because there was the 2 4-star episodes, and then you have the 1 3.5 star. The 2.5 star brought it down a little bit, but because of it still was a great production. They had a lot of different people. I'm not going to understand why they decided to take this kind of a route on the final episode. To have someone on there saying that they are an alien and that they speak in tongues. Blah, blah, blah. Could you imagine? I'm just wondering, are my subscribers going to, the ones who have decided to follow this podcast, are they going to continue to follow me if I was to come on here and start speaking in tongues and saying, really, it's called light language and I'm speaking to extraterrestrials and that I'm an extraterrestrial myself? I don't think I'm going to have a lot of people here. The kind of people that are listening to this podcast, I don't think they're going to be paying too much attention to it. If I'm going to be sitting there going and then try to tell you I'm speaking to aliens right now, that's crazy. That's crackpot. That kind of stuff, right? Let me tell you, to anybody else, people who have a casual interest in this, right? You're not going to sway, and you're going to push people away with that kind of stuff. I don't understand why they would have that kind of stuff in this episode. It really, really hurt it. And that was the worst of it. There was some other people there that I couldn't understand. Like you're having some doctor talking who's a specialist in religion. They're talking about how UFOs it's a religion for people. It's almost religion-like. Come on. It basically gives the whole thing to me. It makes the whole subject of UFOs look silly again. So you have these first 3 great, very interesting episodes, but then you're talking about light language and I'm an alien and this kind of stuff. Come on, a drama teacher. Come on, right? And then not only that, we're talking about anime and manga over in Japan and like the stuff that's included in there. Again, pop culture type stuff. right? That's another focus in this episode. Like, that's those things in pop culture they're derived from things that people experience. It's just they seem to get it backward a lot of times in these discussions, and that's the problem with it. So yeah, it's unfortunate. That's just my opinion. Maybe there are people out there who feel differently. People who saw this episode, I'm sure that there are probably some of you out there who look at this differently and think that maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe you think I'm right, or maybe you think I'm not slamming it enough. I don't know. I'll ask that question. I'll put in the poll here. What you think, and actually if anybody out there want to provide their thoughts on this, please do so. Please let us know. I want to know if I'm the wrong one here, right? Maybe to me, right? I thought this episode focused too much on nonsense and not on the UFO and extraterrestrial phenomenon, as did the other 3 episodes. To me, when you're starting to talk about the full focus is on speaking alien and basically it's tantamount to speaking in some religious nut speaking in tongues on a stage or something. When you're basically making all of it look the same, and it does make it look like some craziness. I don't know what to say about it, but that was disappointing. But there were other aspects in it that were interesting, so that's why I give it 2.5 stars. But overall, a good series, and I recommend all of it. Check it out. I think you're going to like it. But anyway, I want to say thanks a lot for joining me. Until next time.